What's up, everybody, and welcome to Respect Our Authoritah, Wisecrack South Park podcast.
Respect my Authoritah!
My name is Jared. I'm joined here with the authoritarians. We got Amanda.
Hey.
And Ryan.
Howdy ho, neighbors.
And Lux.
Yo.
And today we're talking about South Park Season 23, Episode 6, Season Finale, which I hope it is not. But we are going to go around and, well, first I'm going to guess. I'm going to guess that Ryan gives it a B-. I'm going to guess that Lux gives it a B+, and I think that Amanda's going to give it a B. So, like, in the B range for everybody. So how did I do? Let's start in order. Let's start with Ryan.
Wow, Jared, you're just so good at this, man. Just cracking it every week. Yeah, I literally thought about this when I saw. I was like, I'm going to go either B- or C+. So you went on the up curve of it. Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was funny. Definitely funnier than last week. The stuff with the whites was funny. The stuff with everything with Randy. Randy's just the best. So I'm not tired of Randy. So I don't consider myself or tired of Integrity Farms anymore. I want more Integrity Farms. So yeah,
you might just get it.
I know. I've come full circle on Integrity Farms. So yeah, I thought this was definitely a step up from last week. That's about all I can say right now.
Okay, and who did I say next was Lux? Yeah. Lux, what did you think?
Yeah, I'm in the BB plus range. I guess similar to Ryan, you kind of picked the higher end outcome, but I like this one. I liked a lot of things about it. It was another one that kind of felt a little disorganized.
Yeah.
But like every component part was good. It just would have been like a real banger if it had been able to like sort of feel a little bit better balanced across a few things.
And Amanda.
Yeah, you got me. I'm about B for about the same reasons. Definitely a lot of funny moments, definitely a lot of painful moments. But I mean, I guess it was kind of cool to have like cringe-inducing South Park back, like in full force. So yeah, definitely worlds better than last week.
Yeah, I would say I'm kind of in the B- range as well. I was very shocked to see Garrison back. Yeah. I was not expecting that. Mostly because I just don't understand why they pick some... I mean, because, you know, Trump's always the headline, no matter what's going on. I don't know if anything is happening in the news right now that's so egregious that they decided, all right, it's time to break our streak of not talking about Trump, and now we're going to do it again.
I mean, impeachment, bro.
Wait,
I don't know, man.
Cannot call it impeachment gate. There's so many reasons why that's an insane thing to say.
I'm kidding.
I know, but it just made my brain explode. I had a subdural hematoma as soon as I heard it.
I don't know. I think it's just been... The fever pitch has been at a 10 for so long that it just... I don't know. I just... People... Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I think
anyway,
this was more that they could isolate a specific Trump behavior rather than a specific Trump action, if that makes sense. Like, this was a really shitty way to pull in a trend
have been accusing him of
specific moment.
But people have been accusing him of doing things wrong since he was... Even before he was elected.
Oh, yeah. But this is just, like, a specific way he does things shitty. That they were like, oh, this is very, like, Randy-y. We can sort of connect these two ideas pretty easily. As opposed to being like he did a specific thing that we're mad about. I mean, they also do that because they talk about the camps, but that's different.
Yeah. Anyway, let's go into a recap. The mayor accuses Randy of being the Mexican Joker that blew up people's backyards back in episode 1. Despite damning evidence, Randy professes his innocence and is thrown in jail to await trial. Stan, Sharon, and Shelley, however, are secretly hoping Randy goes away for a while so they can sell the farm and move back to their old life. Jason White is accidentally run over by a cop while playing football. When the White family sees the number of people celebrating Randy's incarceration outnumbering the people mourning for Jason, they bemoan how the Whites are always getting screwed over while people worry about other things like Randy's case. Randy asks President Garrison for advice to beat his case, and Cartman recommends to the Whites to go to the detention center and adopt a new kid. They adopt Alejandro and, inspired by Rudy Giuliani on the TV, decide to protest the bogus allegations against Randy Marsh. They decide to adopt another child for Alejandro to take care of so he can learn gratitude. Randy really needs some weed in order to avoid self-reflection, so Rudy Giuliani sneaks him a joint in his ass. In court, Randy regrets selling out his vision of integrity. Outside the building, the whites force Alejandro to wear sunscreen, making the police think he's the Mexican Joker. With Mexican Joker on the loose, Randy is exonerated, and he presents his family with his newest specialty weed, season finale, end of episode. All right, so first thing, it's not the season finale, right?
Right.
I think there's at least
But do
one
we
more.
know that?
I think it's a 10-episode order.
Yeah. I mean, I looked at the Comedy Central TV guide for next week, and it says that season 23, episode 7 is playing. It seems like a very weird joke. Why troll with that?
I think it's what you guys were talking about last week or the week before about like our South Park fans tired of Integrity Farms, and it's kind of a meta joke, a weird meta joke. I agree with you, and I guess maybe they were. My best guess is just they in their minds thought, I think people hate our Integrity Farms bit we keep doing. Let's talk about that in a meta way, and then let's wrap it up in impeachment, and do that. That's.
But it seems like Integrity Farms isn't going away. We're to understand that Trey is basically doubling down at the end, right?
I think he's doubling down.
Yeah. I think the end is that we're getting away from hanging out at Integrity Farms. I think it'll still exist, but I don't think it's gonna be the locus point in the same way. And I think that's why it's the season finale. Is that like, it's almost as though they're doing 2 seasons, like one 6-episode Integrity Farms run, then like a 4-episode non-Integrity Farms zone.
We'll know when the credits start next week.
Yeah, that's the big question, right? Are we gonna get the old South Park song? I think so, but we'll see.
I don't know. It would make sense for them to have to sell the farm or something like that. Randy doesn't necessarily need to go to prison, but he could have a change of heart and realize that selling weed just isn't for me and sell the farm and go back to South Park. But no, if anything, his mission statement is reinvigorated.
Yeah, but there's circumstantial, like, this is a way by making it be like, well, season's over because of snow. A way that they can be like, they can have their cake and eat it too, right? Like, they don't have to put the end of Integrity Farms as like a running thing into the show. They also have set up a context where they can be like, it's not happening right now.
Oh, I get it.
Do you think that they'll buy their house back, or they'll just be on Integrity Farms, or maybe it'll just be back at school and we see Stan maybe back in his old clothing, but we don't necessarily follow him back to the weed farm where we assume he still lives, but it's just snowing?
Yeah, I think they'll be there, but we won't.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
which is
exactly
like
what I think is
a
gonna
welcome change for me.
And you guys don't think that it'll be just like normal, and the only thing that happened is that literally a season changed. The season of summer is over.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, I think that's basically what's going to be. But I think
it.
that, like, I don't think they're going to do the legwork to be like, and this is the end of Integrity Farms. I think they're going to leave that door open because, like, despite everything, they obviously think it's a funny joke.
Yeah.
I mean, they do. At the last shot is them putting a jar of weed into, and each jar of weed is labeled with the name of the episode of this season, and the last one fits into the only empty slot. So they are at least trolling us with the idea that, this is the end of season 23, which I guess is funny to them.
Maybe they're just like really bored of it this season. I think.
Search. I just did a Google search for season 23, and there's at least 2 more episodes, maybe more.
Oh wow! I didn't know it was that little.
Yeah, man. I mean, come on, at least 10. Why are these seasons getting so much smaller?
It might be more, but I only have a list through the end of the month, which is 2 more episodes.
Guys are getting old. They make a whole show for us in 6 days. Give them a break.
They can take as many breaks as they want. Okay. They can take more weeks off. I don't care.
Yeah, make it bi-weekly.
Yeah. I know.
Or semi-weekly. I can't remember.
I really like the opening with Integrity Farms breakfast.
Yeah, that was funny.
Especially if you guys ever seen like YouTube weed hangouts. I actually don't know if they're big anymore because the algorithm might have squashed them. But there used to be, or maybe there still is, these YouTubers that were basically like mukbang, except just with smoking weed. Like, come smoke a joint and hang out with me. I'll just talk about my life.
My friend who I was watching it with said it was making fun of like those Vice shows where they just like talk about weed the whole time, but I cannot.
Oh, really?
I cannot attest to the.
Neither can I haven't seen those.
I mean, yeah, it's got that vibe, or like a Joe Rogan vibe, or like a Getting Dug with High, like all that stuff from that like particular era of time where it was just like smoking weed is like a whole bit by itself.
For sure.
So might as well start talking. We've already started talking about it a little bit. We could talk about the whole meta aspect. So I do like there are cameras that are filming them, and for the first time, we actually see a source of the meta in the sense that there is a camera. So even when people in suits come in and say, wrap it up, this has gone on for too long, and then when they're pushing Randy out the door, he's saying, my show, my Integrity Farms show. So we actually have a camera this time, and then at the end when he's looking at our camera saying, didn't you guys like this season? There was a little bit of everything, right? And then it cuts to the side shot where you actually see that he's talking to his camera for the Integrity Farms breakfast show. So I thought that was pretty clever, giving us a source for, oh, okay, there actually is a show within the text that he's referring to, not only... Because a lot of times in the earlier episodes, I thought there was it was only meta. There was no actual bearing in the narrative that we're watching. It really was just Trey breaking the fourth wall and speaking directly to the audience about South Park, the show. But at least now there's a camera.
Yeah, well, I think this time they wanted to make it indisputable that Integrity Farms and South Park is like this meta conversation. Like, leave zero room to be like, who knows?
Yeah.
And make it just like, this is the fucking deal. We're talking about the show.
You know what? Just to go back, I don't know if they can just kind of forget about Integrity Farms because Randy has become so integral. Like, I can't imagine an episode without Randy now.
I can. I just Cartman-centric. That's all I've wanted. Yeah, I mean...
Yeah.
Give me a Stan and Kyle get in trouble episode. Like...
Did y'all get the impression though that like, because I saw them, I saw the show being a stand-in for South Park, but also I saw him being a stand-in for literally Donald Trump at the end. Did that not come across to you guys either?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Oh
okay.
Yeah,
with Randy, big time.
Yeah.
There are a couple other things I want to go over before we get into Trump, but so when the mayor says to Randy, South Park has had enough with Integrity Farms, and then Randy says, South Park is nothing without Integrity Farms. You guys just hate me because I've been successful. Do you think that is any reference to the enormous success of Banned in China?
I mean, it's got to be, right? Like, if not Banned in China specifically, at least like the Integrity run. But probably Banned in China because that was their most successful episode in like years.
Well,
yeah.
But
has the rest of the season been successful or just that episode?
I don't have the rating numbers in front of me, but I imagine it's done all right.
See, that was one where that was like a line where I was like, okay, they're talking about he's being Trump's mouthpiece, right? You know, like, oh, I'm successful, I made the jobs go up, you know, and you still hate me.
Okay, that I can see.
That's true, yeah.
And then one of my favorite moments of this episode is just on a cut where the mayor says, at least now South Park can get back to normal. And then it cuts to Cartman playing football saying, titty farts, said hut.
I thought of you immediately when that clip happened. I was like, this is an extremely joy for Jared moment.
Yeah, that's so good. They did that again. They did that in the first episode of season 22. Remember with the Amazon Alexa? They had some sort of meta commentary where the show just started, because the whole joke was that Cartman and the kids were just so enamored with the fact that the Alexa will say obscenities back to them. And it was, I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was the show kind of reflecting on its dual identity. One as the socio-political commentary, and one as just dick and fart jokes. All right, let's talk more about the Trump thing. So, what do you guys think?
I mean, I thought it was pretty funny. I didn't think it was like anything new, you know?
Yeah.
But I do. It is funny. It does make a joke that's becoming increasingly kind of a funny one that plays out in real life, like social media and the news pretty regularly, which is that like Trump can get away for whatever reason with just sort of like saying shit that doesn't make any sense and hand waving huge problems. But anyone farther down the ladder like absolutely cannot. Which you see play out in the episode where like Randy tries to do what was it, Darvo, deny something, reverse victim and offender. Yeah, when he tries to do Darvo, the mayor is just like, "Shut up, Randy."
Well, no, he tries to do it in the trial, and then he has his integrity moment where he says, "You know what? I can't."
Oh, he tries to do in the doctor is like, "Shut up, Randy." That's right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Because you're not president of the United States.
Yeah, exactly. And I like that just because it is pretty true that you see a lot of like annoying rich dudes be like, I'm gonna just do the Donald Trump thing and do this thing, and then everyone's like, no, shut up. But then Donald Trump does it, and everyone's like, well, I guess that's what happens. And so I liked that they pointed to that in a kind of direct way.
Yeah, I love that. Oh, sorry, go Amanda.
Oh, I was just going to say, I thought it was a pretty good payoff that he blamed his entire run of bad behavior throughout the season on, like, Donald Trump. Like, at least I'm not as bad as him. I felt like that was, like, a good culmination, for sure.
Yeah, I also thought that was, like, a pretty astute observation, because that definitely is, like, a kind of ethical lowering that is somewhat true of our world, I think.
Yeah, totally.
Where people are like, look, yeah, I might be a gross weirdo, but at least I'm not as bad as the president. And it's like, oh, bud, I don't know if that's a great way to look at the world.
Well, yeah. And they kind of talk about that though. That just like look at the slow downhill of our ethical standards, and how really the only way you could possibly get away with that is if 63 million people elect you, and then you kind of have this free ticket in a weird way, or like that's like the only person that does in the world, and then everyone else can't get away with that behavior. It's I hadn't seen it expressed that way except in this cartoon.
Yeah, no, I think they did good work with that. Also, I fucking just loved all the Giuliani stuff because, like, absolutely fuck that guy.
They really put a lot of work into his animation with his teeth always falling out and his hands going into these weird movements. And what is he doing, like a rat hand thing?
Yeah, like it's like a rat goblin sort of mix. I love it.
Yeah.
It was great. Yeah, it was like as funny as Kate McKinnon being Giuliani on SNL.
The pistachio nuts joke right away was very good, where he's like on the ground and you think he's giving Garrison a blowjob, and then it turns out he's just gathering pistachio nuts.
Yeah.
Also the butt weed, like the Giuliani stuff might have been the funniest stuff to me in the whole episode. It was very good.
And if you've been paying attention to the impeachment stuff, I mean, it is kind of like telling the story of the impeachment process, or like what's going on with this Ukraine stuff, like him, like Rudy Giuliani just being Trump's little henchman out there, like feeding people false information, basically.
Yeah, and just publicly eating shit left and right, to like prevent other people from getting in trouble. Like, absolutely.
Yeah.
They did a really good job of kind of summing that all up in a short little cartoon.
So I don't have the line written down, but first of all, one of the things that I love about Garrison as Trump is I just love how much he doesn't give a fuck. Like, just the attitude that he gives off when he's eating those pistachios, just saying, yeah, just deny, reverse, victim the offender. Like, and even when the news anchor says, the president says that Randy Marsh's trial is total butt-fucking bullshit. And then I didn't get a chance to write it down, but do you guys remember what the line is exactly? The news anchor then, quoting Garrison, says something about the term whistleblower. But I don't remember exactly what it says, and I couldn't write it down because I can't rewind on the fucking sling.
Oh, it was, what was it? It was like, wasn't it? It was Giuliani called whoever posted the video.
Oh, the tweaks.
Yeah. Called whoever posted the video, the tweaks. What was it? It was something, it has the word fuck in it, that's for sure. It was like a something fucking whistleblower is what they called him. Maybe it was a burrito fucking whistleblower. I don't remember. I may just also, I had a burrito for dinner, so I mean, that's what I was thinking.
I only remember the first insult, kind of, it was like tampon fucking 69ers was the way he described, like, in his first tweet. I don't know.
So basically just an insult ending with whistleblower.
Yeah.
Okay.
But also, I mean, even that's really great because, like, you get the more I think about this, kind of like how Ryan framed it as, like, sort of telling the story of the impeachment, the more that feels real to me, just in the sense of, like, even these bullshit insults also have the vibe of, like, the way that they kind of just, like, scramble to like shit on whoever says anything bad, and sometimes the way they scramble to shit on these people comes out gibberishy.
Totally.
And the show really nails that as well. Like, they do a good job of, like, characterizing a certain element of the discourse for sure, throughout, and it's pretty impressive.
When he says, ever since he became president, I started comparing my morals to his, yada, 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 and at least so long as I'm better than the president, I'm fine. When I heard that, I was wondering, first of all, I thought it was surprising that everything that's happened for the last season and a half, they all of a sudden contextualize as being as a result of Trump and the decomposing moral compass of the country. But was there anything meta there about the direction of the show? I couldn't really think of anything.
I feel like it was more that even as he was kind of like trying to atone, he was still victimizing himself, which kind of fitted into like the larger narrative of the whites victimizing themselves. And I guess those are the only two categories of people. But yeah, but definitely like the victimization of white people, I feel like has been like a strong theme this season.
Yeah, and if you wanted to stretch it out to make a broader point, and I don't know if I buy this per se, but I think you could make the argument that they're sort of like trying to make it clear like where they sit on the Trump, no Trump sort of dichotomy of like American culture. And they're saying that he's not great and is bad. And I mean, they've kind of gotten that before, but this seems like a real like what they said, what they have Randy say, also paired with the really brutal scene at the camp, is like pretty damning stuff, you know, to be like the president is so bad that he's made everyone else bad by proxy is like a pretty devastating sort of claim to make.
Yeah, and I feel like especially like they're so cynical about like politics in general that it was almost surprising to just see them like feel like it felt like they were completely outraged by like what's going on.
Yeah. I mean, the
That's
scene
what I was surprised by.
In the camp is like extremely, it was very funny to me, but very fucked up and very like raw and brutal.
Yeah.
And by the camp, you're talking about when they're picking out their child?
Yeah, when they go to like the dog adoption service, but it's for
like
children.
the quote-unquote pound.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Let's talk about the whites. The only thing about this is that it was virtually the same joke as the end of season 22.
Correct, yes.
But now we got impeachment, baby. It's the whites' take on impeachment, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. It's still the same joke. It's still we'll defend Trump and we'll victimize ourselves no matter what. Mm-hmm. I think the point of the joke is that whatever is going on is arbitrary. Whatever they're defending themselves from is arbitrary. They'll just always victimize themselves. So I wasn't necessarily laughing, but yeah.
I mean, it was like coupled with like their victimization gave them an excuse to like further victimize these kids, you know, and to feel outraged when these kids weren't like grateful for their suffering. So I feel like they did. I don't remember exactly if like the whites' suffering was also an excuse for like to further oppress other people in like season 22, but it definitely was this time.
No, you're probably right.
Yeah, and I saw it as also just kind of like about the state of discourse in the country at large, just how we're all talking in circles, like most people are doing the, not to the degree as Trump, but whatever the fuck, the Darvo thing, you know, it's like, oh, very rarely do you see people, you know, admitting their mistakes or whatever. They're kind of like, oh, blaming the other side and whatever. And then it's just the starkest contrast is when you're talking about white people because, you know, it's just a funnier joke.
The worst.
Yeah,
their problems tend to be the silliest.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you know, at least, yeah.
And not universally, but like a lot of the ones who get in the discourse, because there are obviously a lot of like oppressed class white people in the country.
Right. Yeah. It's just funny to make a
but
joke
they're not the ones
about it.
on. Yeah, but they're not the ones who go on CNN and complain about how sad white people are. Those
or who
people are
like
fine.
protest in favor of Trump.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I don't know about that.
I think that's a
take that
50-50 split, but I don't know the numbers. I'm not a geologist. No, ethnographer is what I meant to say.
Same thing.
Yeah, you know, rocks people. I just like, I thought that the way that they dealt with the like problem of deporting parents and adopting kids in this episode was very funny because it is like a real issue. I think it's like technically a UN human rights issue, actually.
Yeah, for sure.
The idea of it's effectively kidnapping, right? Like you take a bunch of children, send their parents away, and then give the kids to other people. And the way they handled that, and the way that they kind of like criticized the people who engage with that, but also just like the way that they view sort of people of color, Latin American people, I thought it was just like devastating and brutal, but also so funny. Like the Peruvian hairless fucking wrecked me.
It was just like incredible satire.
Yeah, this is the Baja Shepherd. Oh, can we let him run around for a little bit?
Yeah. Like I thought that
and
was
then
so
did you
funny.
notice the way Mr. White was like treating him like a dog? like the way he would tap him on the head, like the way
Oh
you
no,
like.
I did notice that.
Yeah,
Oh
like
my
whenever he was
God.
doing something wrong, he would like smack him on the head lightly, like the way you would train a dog.
Wow.
And it was just incredible that they just like doubled down on that metaphor when it's like so rooted in real life and like real race relations. I just thought it was like devastatingly good satire.
And that like all the white people, both the whites and also the people at the camp, thought that like all the Spanish they need to know was bien y2 at like in different
gracias,
tones and different
y2.
volumes.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
it's
so
good.
When they bring back Mexican Joker, do you think that that's a response at all to them having seen the Joker movie? Because there is an argument you could make, and I don't know if I entirely buy this, but that just as nobody is listening to the Latino kids who are saying, I want my mother, where's my family, and then everyone just responds to them just by saying, bien gracias y2, they're basically, I mean, the whole thing with the Joker is that nobody sees him. He tells his therapist nobody listens to him. He gets no recognition. Do we think that there's any of that kind of, in the Joker's terms, clownification of the disenfranchised that's going on here?
I mean, I think there is, but I don't know if they're like taking that read on the Joker and reapplying it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, that's what I'm not entirely sold on too.
yeah, like there definitely is, just like mechanically speaking, right? Like the kid keeps asking for things, they keep not listening to him, then he flips out, it goes crazy, and then they paint an accidental Joker mask on him and he gets shot by the cops. Like, extremely doing the Joker thing and doing the non-recognition thing. I just don't know if they're like, the Joker was all about recognition, so what if our Mexican Joker has the same thing? You know what I mean? Like maybe
Yeah.
they did, but
Yeah.
I feel like that was kind of my least favorite part of the episode because, and I feel like Lux might have said this when we talked about Mexican Joker, like the argument shouldn't be, and I know they're not really making this argument, but the narrative kind of is like, don't put kids in detention camps because they might become terrorists, when like the argument really is like, don't put kids in detention camps because detention camps are literal
Shitty.
abuse and torture.
yeah, because don't put
So-
kids in detention camps, end of sentence.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you. So that was the only part of the episode that kind of like tonally threw me.
See,
at least the-
I kind of
but
love
at
that.
least the-
Maybe because I just got like played by it, but like when they put the sunscreen on the kid, I was like, oh, they're making him a white, because of how it sat on his face. Then he ran away, and I was like, oh, it's a Joker thing. Wow.
I will say, but the pound jokes at least do speak to the fact that being in a detention camp is dehumanizing.
For sure.
Yeah.
Rather than saying that it leads to bad results.
Definitely. No. And I know they're not really arguing that. It just
Yeah.
was like, yeah, threw me a little.
Yeah. Yeah, anything else you guys want to bring up before we go into the mailbag?
I wish there'd been more of the Marsh family, and like what they were.
Of them
Yeah.
celebrating Randy going to jail. Yeah, I really like the point when Randy is in court and he's giving his grand speech and he says, "I've got a loving wife and a loving son," and then he totally forgets Shelley, and Shelley just like throws her arms out like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, I mean, there's that. There was like the very funny like the Breflovskis show up and they bring a lasagna in a very like sitting Shiva or like other like community sadness kind of way, and then they walk in, it's just like definitely a party.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
great.
Yeah.
The like what I really liked, and this is like a small animation performance thing, but like Sharon like slowly getting happier as she talked to her kids
Yeah.
about how their father was in prison was like
She's
also
like
very good.
Yeah, trying to keep her excitement bottled up, trying not to show it.
Yeah, until she eventually is just like actively smiling. Like, I thought all that shit was really good. And that's what I mean when I said earlier this episode was disorganized, because it felt like that was a lot of the strongest stuff in the episode, and it just gets like dropped about 8 minutes in, basically.
Totally.
In favor of the stuff with the whites and with Randy. And it just like it just felt, and with Garrison and all that, and it just felt like a lot of the stuff that was making me really into the episode early on just like wasn't there for the rest of it, which was annoying.
The funniest part for me was when Randy's giving his speech and he says, "I smoked that joint, and you know what I thought? This is some shitty ass weed." The reason,
Which, like,
The reason I
of
got
course
into
it
this
is, right?
business-
Like, of course the Garrison or the Trump Giuliani weed sucks ass.
Well, and it was literally in his ass.
Yeah, it
That's
is
right.
true. It is truly butt
really
weed.
shitty
It works on
ass
many
weed.
levels.
Yeah. And then when he goes on to talk about The reason that he got into this business was to make strong, pure weed. It's the sunrise. It's the smile on a baby's face. It's about family. Are those actually the exact same words that Mr. Tweak said back in the original Mr. Tweak episode? Because I didn't go back and check, but it seems very familiar when he says it's the smile on a baby, it's the sunrise.
You mean the coffee shop thing? I don't know. I'm curious now.
If you give me 1 second, I can find out. I mean, if it's not exactly the same, it's still extremely, extremely close.
But he did put his leg on that chair while in the courtroom, which is definitely something Mr. Tweak did in that episode.
Yes, it very much is.
Huh.
Yeah.
My South Park memory is short.
It says,
I mean,
okay,
it was
so
early season.
Yeah.
one of them is, one of the monologues is, I know how you boys feel. Sometimes a hot cup of French roast amaretto is just what a man needs to get him through the day. That smooth aroma and mild taste that makes Tweak coffee very special. Special, like an Arizona sunrise or a juniper wet with dew. And I'll look for baby. There's nothing about a baby, but it's definitely in the same tone and the same style.
Yeah.
Like,
Same
that's
tone,
for sure.
Wow. Even like the same kind of like language.
Yeah. Like if it's not a 1-to-1, but it's like extremely evocative of the Tweak speech for sure.
Do you think that's probably... I don't think they're hearkening back to anything that they were saying in that episode, do you?
Well, except that like the way a mom and pop shop quickly becomes like an evil corporation, right?
Oh, yeah. Nice.
Yeah, I mean, I think
guess
that
so.
they're kind of hinting
But
at
see-
Randy being a little duplicitous, which he ends up being at the end of the episode.
That's why it was weird to me that all of a sudden it's because of... Well, I think, Amanda, you said it best. I was going to say it's weird to me that all of a sudden Randy's bad behavior is because of Trump, because we've seen them make these critiques about how... We've seen them make cynical critiques before about how people have no integrity, and even mom and pop shops can be just as ruthless and manipulative as giant corporations. But I think, as you said, it speaks more to the fact that even atoning is self-victimizing in this sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that they've found, and to a certain degree at least, when they choose to use Trump this way, like Trump as like a metastasization of the sort of things they talk shit about in previous seasons. Trump is one of them. Like Jeff Bezos was obviously one last season. But they can sort of use Trump to talk about these kind of bigger old ideas and like bring them back in kind of a semi-fresh way, which is nice.
Yeah, I hope Garrison disappears for like a while again, you know?
For the rest of the season?
Yeah, maybe even.
Yeah.
I don't need any more of it.
I'm the opposite. I think that they're kind of sprinkling him in here to kind of hold out in case some news goes down with him or something, and then they can make a whole episode about it or whatever.
Oh, but I think they can just do that anyway.
Yeah.
Right, but I mean, but this impeachment thing is big, you know. I think that they're like that maybe that's what the season finale thing's all about, where they're gonna drag that on more and make the end of the season more impeachment stuff. I don't know. I could see it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to talk about.
For sure.
It's just that they had so much success not talking about Trump, and now for them to double back down on it, I don't know.
I mean,
I'd
the
be
president's
surprised.
about to get
To me,
impeached. You know, that's like a big deal.
But like they had such failures when they did deal with Trump. I think they found out that he's a little bit beyond satirization most of the time. And I feel like this episode only worked because it was like channeled through the character of Randy.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty true. I also think that, like, even if they don't make fun of Trump getting impeached specifically, there's so much crazy, like, brainwormsy discourse surrounding the impeachment that, like, there's plenty of shit there. So even if they don't go back to Garrison per se, I think Ryan could totally be right that they're talking about, like, the kind of things that are floating around in the midst of this discussion pretty effectively. And that could be, like, and again, like sort of like you said, Amanda, like, they can channel sort of ideas that are floating around impeachment through other characters who have to deal with Garrison Trump all the time, but they can still engage with, like, what is extremely the hot button issue.
For sure. And it was satisfying to see them like actually like address like the detention camps like fully again and not just kind of like leave it to the side. I feel like it's necessary for them to like engage with current events to some extent beyond like scooters.
Yeah, I guess so. I just feel like impeachment is going to be the hot button issue for the rest of the season.
Mm-hmm.
And I would prefer if they didn't have every single episode dedicated to that, just because it's momentous.
You mean all two?
There's just so much dumb bullshit around it. Oh my god.
What, Ryan?
So you mean all 2 or 1 that we're gonna get left?
I hope there are 4 more episodes. I mean, 10 episodes is what I was thinking.
Yeah, me too.
I just assumed.
Yeah, I heard that it was a 10 episode order, but all that's listed online is 8. But yet last week all that was listed online was 7, so who knows?
Shit. Well, maybe we'll only get 6. Who knows? All right, let's go into the mailbag. Hit us up with voicemails, 213-534-8807. We got one from Diego.
Hey, Authoritarians. This is Diego from São Paulo, Brazil, calling about South Park's latest episode, Integrity Farms Halloween Special. My favorite thing was Randy and Shelley's dynamic throughout the episode. It was just hilarious how Randy, as a dad, finds his daughter's hatred of marijuana a problem. He tries to convince her that marijuana is good, using all these stupid reasons because the Egyptians used it and stuff like that. And giving those arguments in the exact tone as you would expect, in air quotes, a normal parent would say how marijuana is a gateway drug or something. And that whole dynamic reminded me a lot of a Monty Python sketch called Working Class Playwright, where in the same way, a parent resents his son for working in a coal mine and studying the arts as he did. And I would like to leave you guys with a quote that cracked me up just as much as Randy's definition of Shelley's marijuana problem there is in the sketch. As the father throws out his son, the son says, "One day you realize there's more to life than culture. There's dirt and smoke and good honest sweat." And that's it for me. Thank you guys a lot for the podcast and all you guys do on the internet. Bye.
All right.
Good
Thank you,
voicemail,
Diego.
Thanks,
that.
man.
Yeah, that sketch is really good.
What happens in the sketch?
Basically it's just that there's a father who's a playwright and his son who is a coal miner, and the father keeps trying. It's like the inversion of the classic, you'll never make it just being a playwright in the big city. You got to get a good, honest job like a coal miner, but it's switched around.
Gotcha.
And there's a definite after-school special vibe to the way Randy was talking to Shelley that I loved.
Yeah, especially he brings her to a museum.
Yeah.
All right, we got another one from Gerard.
What's up, Wisecrack? This is Gerard from New Jersey. Just calling about the Halloween special episode. I just listened to your podcast. Though I do disagree, I thought it was a great episode. I laughed my ass off. I guess I just don't have as good of a mentality as you guys do. But two things I noticed is that
I think maybe the
the
opposite.
museum
actually.
janitor that Butters talks to at the beginning of the episode is actually also the farmer from the Milkman episode. Remember that one where Ike finds his dad having sex with his mom dressed up as a mailman? And then the other thing I noticed was that Randy has this passing nod to his career as a geologist that you guys didn't really talk about. Just when he's in the hot tub and smoking up and he's drops a whole load of information about geology. And I just thought that was kind of interesting. Thanks so much. Keep up with the great content. Love to hear it. Bye.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, that was a fun moment. It was an interesting continuity moment. They're remember that Randy was a geologist and that was his bit for the first 12 seasons?
Yeah, and then that recurring character of always talking about myths and legends and creepy shit. I had watched the Milkman episode pretty recently. Yeah, he did look familiar.
Yeah, he's in the snowboarding one too.
All right, let's
don't
do.
want to go up on that mountain.
Yeah. All right, let's do one more from Graham.
Hi, Wisecrack. This is Isaiah from Minnesota.
Isaiah.
I'm just calling about the South Park podcast, specifically going back to the idea of Chinese censorship. I don't know if y'all have seen the story recently about the Eastman School of Music Orchestra, but the Eastman School of Music Orchestra was going to be doing a tour to China this academic year, and then the Chinese government said that they weren't able to come unless they banned 2 of their South Korean students who are currently in the Eastman School of Music Orchestra, and the orchestra ultimately decided to decided to not go on the Chinese tour. Obviously, this is slightly different than the idea of censorship, but I still think it's interesting that this outside government have so much control over a performing arts group in the United States. Just wanted to hear your thoughts about that. If that dovetails with anything you all have been talking about or not. Thank you. I love the show a lot. Bye.
What did the South Koreans do? They just outwardly spoke out against or for the protests?
Probably. I know there's there's international tension stuff with South Korea and China as well. Generally speaking,
it wasn't just the fact that they were South Korean, was it? Probably.
I haven't
not.
heard about this story, but I feel like it could have been.
Yeah, or they were posting about stuff. There's a lot of reasons why this could happen, but it just speaks to this whole thing where it just speaks to this whole thing where there's no degree to which as long as sort of American institutions give way to Chinese pressure on certain behaviors, they're just going to keep pushing. That's always been that's just how that's how business works. And again,
Beijing denied visa. Sorry, Lux. I just looked it up on the New York Times, and Beijing denied visas to the 3 South Korean students.
Yeah.
Just based on the fact that they're South Korean?
From the same article, apparently in retaliation for South Korea agreeing in 2016 to deploy an American missile defense system.
Oh, so yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Literally, because they're South Korean. Shit.
That's nuts. I actually saw yesterday, did you guys see there was an article in the New York Times that China implemented a ban that you cannot play video games past 10 p.m. and you can only play for 90 minutes a day.
Blasphemy.
Yeah,
wow.
No, we talked about that on Game Boys this week, actually.
And 3 hours on the weekends. But
yeah,
I couldn't read the article because I'm not a member of the New York Times, but did they talk about how they're going to implement that?
Dude, they have the craziest firewall thing in the world, man. Their whole
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
It's going to be totally draconian.
Yeah, it regulates online gaming for children, I think, is the main thing. So I think that it just boots your account after a certain amount of time and just tracks your account.
Ooh, now that's how you start a revolution.
Dude, the social credit, I mean, have we talked about the social credit thing on this podcast before?
Oh, I don't know if we have, but that's some other wild shit.
I mean, they just implemented it. I can't wait to see, I mean, I don't want to see, but the effects of the social behavioral effects of that 5 years down the road, how does a nation of that large, how do people react when they know that, literally everything they do is being reported?
Yeah, it's tough, man. It's a real,
it's fucking Black Mirror, dude. It's crazy.
It's a real scenario.
Yeah.
All right, Lux, let's go into the mailbag. Hit us up at southpark@wisecrack.co. What do we got in the mailbag?
All right, first we got one from Danny, who says, "Hi, guys. Really enjoy listening to the podcast every week. It's great fun and points out the references that I would otherwise missed. I just listened to the Integrity Farms episode, the Halloween episode, and you didn't mention the blatant homages to Creepshow. The animation choices of the framing of the mummy in certain shots was one. Also, the entire plot of the weed growing out of control was clearly inspired by the lonesome death of Jordy Verrill from the original Creepshow film, with Stephen King playing the lead character. Even the background music is the same. It's a bit of an obscure reference maybe, but a series based on the film was just premiered on Shudder, and it's really fun. You guys will probably get a kick out of it. Anyways, just wanted to mention it because it wasn't brought up on the podcast. Keep up the good work. I always look forward to listening. Danny H." That's a cool one. I just like that one because I did not know that.
Yeah, me neither. I have not seen Creepshow. We also got some emails. Well, I don't want to spoil them, but
what do you have? Because I've got a bunch in here. So
someone said that there were also references to Troll 2 in the episode, which I've only seen clips from.
Yeah, the Troll 2 reference is very similar. We got a bunch of emails pointing at references we did or didn't get. That's I think the one of them that is in here. But now the next. This one is from Scott, who says, "I'd like to float a theory to explain this episode. Are all the things in the episode inversions on previous mainstream opinions and the meaning of phrases, mainly to those of a conservative viewpoint in a world that may be viewed as gone too progressive? Weed used to be demonized, now it's embraced as a source of urban growth and solution for tax deficits. Now Shelley's weed problem is that she hates marijuana instead of what would previously be an addiction or drug abuse topic on shows in the 90s, even sending her to jail to change her views. The mummy's rejection by Butters is seen by everyone around as that Butters is the bad guy, not the hunting, murdering mummy. Butters the guy who can't understand how society has changed around him, best shown in the diner scene. Even the PC principal scene shows an inversion of how he's trying to enforce not being racist through his intolerance to traditional Halloween costumes and how he loses cool in the name of tolerance. Thanks to the great show. Love all of Wisecrack's content. Scott. So how do you guys feel about that?
Actually, so you know how South Park Studios will put up like a 30-second clip of the episode a day or two before the episode drops? Jacob actually saw the clip, which was Randy in Shelly's bedroom saying that you have a marijuana problem, and Shelly says, yeah, I hate marijuana, and he's like, Shelly. And that was actually Jacob's thought. He's like, oh, this is going to be about how being a conservative is now like the rebellious thing to do. But interestingly, when I watched the episode, I was like, oh no, that's not where it ended up landing. But after hearing his argument, I can see how there are some elements of that you could tie together to make that argument.
Yeah, the only thing I disagree on is the mummy storyline. I didn't really see how that's like.
It's because it's mostly nonsensical in terms of who's what's fault, you know. Because if the argument is just that Butters is being, if the argument is that someone is, never mind, I'm losing it.
Yeah, I think that Scott has some juice here. That's the first time I used juice this week, Ryan. I think Scott has some juice here on the questions of like that Shelley stuff, but I think the mummy and the PC principal things are sort of backwards of what the show is trying to do. I think the show wants you to sympathize with Butters and wants you to not like everyone sort of gaslighting Butters like we talked about last week. And the PC principal thing is sort of about like, it's about how silly it is, but also sort of how like, you know, you probably shouldn't just like be a homeless guy for Halloween.
Well, I would say that if we're meant to empathize with Butters, then I think that is in line with, I'm sorry, what's the emailer's name?
Scott.
With Scott's point, because his point is that the victim is blaming Butters, and our culture is such that we, at least in his argument, that we automatically always believe the person claiming to be a victim. So,
but Butters is the.
Yeah, but Butters is
the quote unquote real victim, but the mummy is going all over town saying that, oh, Butters is being such a narcissist, he's doing such horrible things to me, which is making me rampage all over town and kill 5 people and mess up the school and all that.
I guess to me that feels like Darvo.
But and then as far as the PC principal thing, I also think that, I don't know, the PC principal is, especially when he gets really angry and threatens violence, I think we're supposed to look at that critically.
Yeah, me
I
too.
think that's probably true. But I think that that's supposed to be more about his like zealotry than like the concept. You know what I mean?
And his like self-righteousness.
Yeah.
We also got an email from someone who said that we missed the joke about the poor people costumes because the joke is that sometimes poor people don't have costumes and everyone thinks they're wearing a costume because they're poor.
Well, that was the whole thing where Cartman says to Kenny,
you can't go as yourself. Yeah, that's a good point.
that was there. I will say, just like on a joke writing level, it's not a joke. Poor people are poor isn't a joke. Like, it's just not, there's not a punchline.
You mean the Kenny line isn't a joke?
No, the Kenny line's a joke because that's a joke about a character. But the joke about like don't wear poor people costumes because it's bad, and then the joke of that was just that sometimes poor people don't have costumes. That's not really a joke, except for the Kenny version.
Right. Well, I mean, I think the joke is like what you guys were saying before. It's the self-righteousness of trying to find any costume and kind of try to find the wrong angle you could take about why it's offensive is kind of the joke, I think.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. I think that, yeah, I mean, again, these jokes are always a lot stronger when they're at the expense of characters, not at the expense of like broader guys.
Sure.
But I think the argument is that, it's at the expense of PC Principal because he's losing his shit over stuff that is not important.
Right.
Or if it's important, not nearly as important as he's making it out to be. And here is the last one. This is from Cooter, who says, "Hey, authoritarians, Cooter here, diehard South Park fan and devoted listener of the pod. Love your weekly fresh takes of the new seasons, always an audible delicacy. I've been noticing a trend lately and want to get your collective hot takes. I'll try to keep it as laconic as possible. Please don't. Please, instead of doing that, don't. Sometimes I've been noticing since episode 9 of season 20, not funny, South Park takes these moments to address storytelling devices that maybe warrant a lukewarm reception from the fans. Kyle makes a meta speech to the townsfolk that this isn't South Park, clearly referencing to the hard serialization of Season 20. Fast forward to Season 22, there's a meta moment where the boys realize that Kenny hasn't quite been around as much in The Scoots, being reduced to a minor background character. This clearly addressing the concern of Vocal Kenny fans. While in Episode 10, Bike Parade, the boys make a point that they need more adventure-based storylines and episodes, a meta point echoing Vocal fans regarding the heavy-handed socio-political satire. Finally, in Season 23, the upcoming episode is entitled Season Finale, which, if as goes as planned, will close off the Tegrity Farm storyline. We can see a clip of the mayor saying that the people are sick of Tegrity Farms, aka the fans being sick of it. My question is this. All of these self-reflective moments from the show are happening a lot lately and are usually centered around new storytelling devices / serialization. They seem to consistently acknowledge that what they're doing is either not what the fans want or is straying too far from what makes the show great. Do you think Matt and Trey are aware of this and care what the fans think? Because the "this isn't South Park" level of awareness is almost becoming a trend in the show. I wonder if they will keep taking those creative gambles for the stretch of a season, only to realize that it isn't in the vein of true South Park and roll the dice again. Keep up the fantastic work. Cooter, signing off.
Thank you, Cooter. That was a great email.
Yeah, that was a very good one.
I mean, I think that they have for a while thought that, and I mean, fuck, dude, they've been on for 23 years making this fucking weird ass cartoon, and I think that at this point in their lives and careers, they're just like, all right, we've done everything. What new things can we do to spice it up at all? You know, and then every once in a while we'll comment on how this isn't what we started doing, but hey, you know, what do you want from me? I've been on for 23 years.
Yeah,
you know?
I feel like they have like a detached amusement about like pissing the fans off, which is kind of fun.
Yeah.
I mean, the alternative is The Simpsons, right? Which like has stayed structurally the same and just like they run out of ways to play in that structure.
Well, and it's made by committee. You know, it's not two individuals that have been on every single episode. It's like if you get tired of what you're doing on The Simpsons, you just retire for a while or whatever. You know, you just like, all right, I'll let the gang take it from here.
Right, that is the big thing, is that like after like the first like 9, like after like the Dana Gould and whoever seasons, like it just sort of became a system that you could just plug people into to do a Simpsons.
Right.
And South Park sort of refuses to become that, which I think is cool.
I also think that it's kind of an acknowledgement of how much South Park is a part of pop culture, you know, whether for better or for worse, and so he's kind of acknowledging that, like is this, you know, how it used to be in everyone's minds, you know, are we living up to our standard?
And I think that he's always torn between the two identities of the show, of it being silly dick and fart jokes, which is obviously true to his heart, and with him implementing some of his thoughts about the world, which he also seems to find important, or at least he perhaps does spontaneously because he can't think of anything else to do within 6 days. But yeah, I think it's just something that he's constantly struggling with because, you know, we did a video recently on Team America, and one of the things that they criticize celebrities for doing is always inserting their opinions into play. You know, like, who the fuck cares about your opinion? You know, why are you on Fox News? You're just an actor. You read lines. And perhaps they probably struggle with that in terms of, like, why are we putting our opinions into a silly show about dick and fart jokes? They probably struggle with that a lot, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think so. And then I think that they also, like, they take these creative risks to keep it fun and fresh. And I think sometimes they add these meta moments to be like, look, we did this because we wanted to do something. And like, maybe it's not your favorite. Sorry.
Yeah.
They kind of try to cut the, like, you signed up for South Park. We're making you deal with like a serialized weird show about like not what you expected about a weed farm or whatever. And so they kind of like are able to, you know, give a little nod to the audience to be like, look, we get it. This isn't the thing that you were like mega looking for, but it's the thing we wanted to make.
Yeah.
For sure.
All right, we're going to go ahead and sign off. We'll see you guys next week if there is another episode, which I think we're all fairly confident there will be.
There's one next week and there's one in 3 weeks. I'll tell you that, according to the internet.
Okay, cool. Where can we find you guys on the internet, Ryan?
I make comedy shorts on YouTube and Facebook. Ryan's Shorts is what they're called. And you can find me on the Funhouse website sometimes.
And Lux.
I make a video games podcast called the Game Boys Podcast. I also make a wrestling show called Party World Wrestling, and that's about to start going live with our Indiegogo soon. Our first teaser video for the next for the next show called Wasslemania. Wassel, a word I just learned what it means. Is our first video just dropped yesterday afternoon, and it's fun and cool. And there's going to be a bunch more videos, so follow the Facebook page, Party World Wrestling, or look for our Indiegogo when that drops on Monday.
Lux, we had Joey Ryan in the office yesterday at Funhouse.
Oh, really?
You familiar? The dick wrestler?
Oh, I know Joey Ryan. Yeah, the guy who does the pornoplex, where he flips people over with his dick. Yeah,
the
he's
dick
amazing.
flip. Yeah, he's great. So.
Oh my god.
Former member of the world's cutest tag team. Shouts out Joey Ryan. What a wonderful man.
All right, and Amanda.
Watch Wisecrack videos and read our stuff on Medium. Please.
Yeah.
Yeah, do it.
All right, guys. We'll be back next week. Until next time.
Screw you guys. I'm going home.
Peace.
See ya.
Later.
Bye.